Hi there, I'm Jay, and welcome to the Ingenious Movement podcast. This is the third episode. Let's go. So I would say it's fairly obvious from the channel that I'm a maker. It's not exactly hidden, in all honesty, and I mean, the fact that I make YouTube videos as well, that's another big sort of clue. I make YouTube videos, I make music, I draw, I make physical things. It's fairly obvious that that's what I do. In fact, right now I've got next to me some plans for Emberselica, which, if you don't know what Emberselica is, if you know the show Ruby from Rooster Teeth, which you should do, let's be honest. It's not exactly, a secret on YouTube, but basically they have the character Yang, and she has shotgun gauntlets. And they're called Emberselica, and that's what's next to me right now. I have a load of measurements for it, and I need to finish making the measurements for it, and then I'm going to make it. That's going to be the next big project. I don't know if I'm going to involve you in that, but we'll see. And I enjoy making. It's fun. Don't get me wrong, there are a few hang-ups, but overall it is fun. I enjoy the process so much. Starting off with nothing and then slowly watching it create itself almost. Because you make something and you add little bits to it and you change little bits. But it's seeing the different stages and enjoying the process. Being able to sort of slowly just create more and more of the end product and be able to watch it come together as you go through. It's just so much fun. But like I said, there are a few hang-ups. It's very frustrating half the time. The amount of times I've either stormed out the shed, I've shouted at something, I've sworn my arse off at it. It's ridiculous. Because it is a very frustrating thing to do. When things stop working, well, you either have to just go, okay, let's carry on. Or you do what I tend to do, which is shout, swear, go back to it in about 5 minutes and carry on pig-headedly doing what you were doing beforehand, and hope that something changes. Invariably it never does, but you never know. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to be enjoyed, like making Emberselica. I haven't started the making process, but just drawing it out and being able to see it is great. I've done everything to scale. It was a very complicated process. As much as, obviously I'm going to talk about it in the video if I do a video, I'm going to talk about it here now. What I did was I got a reference picture of Yang from Rooster Teeth, a proper reference picture. I got a proper reference picture of Emberselica. I then went and found Yang's canon height, then did some measurements to make everything scale, and then I transferred the scale from I basically measured Yang on the screen against Yang's canon height and said, okay, so each centimetre is this much. I then sort of measured her arm, because that's all I had from the Emberselica reference. I said, okay, so her arm is this long. So I then transferred it to the other reference and said, okay, so this is this long, so then that means each centimetre is this much. And then I've done a fuckload of measurements and had to draw everything out 4 or 5 times. And I finally got the base at the right dimensions. For a top-down view, I've still got to do everything else, which is going to be the fun part, but, we'll see. I'll just need to do there's a couple of bits that are just straight circular, so that's quite handy. I can just do everything relative to that. There's no need for any extra real measurements of, trying to remember how tall I made her and everything, so that's alright. But yeah, there are other hang-ups, I want to go into prop design and special effects. That's what my course is. That's what my uni course is. It's prop design and special effects. But the thing is, with going into that sort of field, the job security is so terrible. I mean, it's really bad. You'd never think how bad it was, but it is absolutely terrible. It's not quite YouTuber levels of terrible, but it is pretty bad. Unless you can get yourself somewhere like Industrial Light and Magic, or potentially, M5 isn't as relevant, but Industrial Light and Magic is the main one I can think of. Unless you can get yourself there, well, you're fucked. You're going to have to chase around everyone and just try and get in on anything, and it's just there. So get yourself signed to like a theatre and go into like making props for theatre, or get yourself somewhere like Industrial Light and Magic or Twins Effects, somewhere like that. That is, but unless you can do that, I mean, who knows? You'll also end up chasing all over the world for these things. Like, I don't know, someone will be filming in Venezuela and say, hey, we want this, that, and the other. Can you make it for us? And you're like, yeah, sure. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we want you in Venezuelan next week. And you're like, oh, fuck me. Okay, how long for? I don't know. Could be 3 months. Could be 3 years. Who the fuck knows? It's that bad. And if you don't follow up on these opportunities, I mean, mate, you're not fucking eating this week. So yeah, you can see why, as such, it's actually a fairly stressful job. It's quite funny. But, well, it's not funny, but at the same time, you have to be able to take everything as a joke and see how funny everything really is. I don't know how I'm going to get anything more out of this podcast. Then again, this is very last minute. Like, I have a week to edit this. I mean, that's not too bad, but I generally like to leave myself like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. But, you know, take what you can get. Throw away what you can't. I wanted to record a podcast with Alex yesterday, but I couldn't get around to it, so it's now the 24th. I've got to fucking get this up for March the 3rd. Yay me. You know, we'll see what we can do. But, I mean, making extends for me beyond physical things. Like, I like creation. I like having an idea and bringing it into the world. Like, I'm saying like a lot. But for example, I've got a website, or I've got a portion of a website because I'm, you know, piggybacking off of a friend's domain. And I'm turning it into a making blog. As soon as it's finished, I'll start leaving the link down below on all the videos, so you can always go down and check that out. I might transfer it to a Wix site, I'm not sure. I just have to see what sort of things Wix sites can do and you know, all that sort of good hoopla and jazz. Wow, that's a big waveform. That's fun. I'll tell you what's not going to be fun. I'm going to have to fucking separate that into a separate audio track so I can then do the compressor on the main track properly. Kill me, why do I do this to myself? Just make my editing job so much harder. It's fan-fucking-tastic. It's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful. Where was I? What was I talking about? Oh, website, yes. But yeah, I've got that. I draw, I occasionally make music. It's not great, but it happens. I like having the initial idea and then... It sounds like someone's in the house. Give me a moment. Okay, so it seems that I am actually just delusional and there isn't, in fact, someone intruding in my house. Who the fuck knows, though? Maybe it's the goblins again. I already fucking kicked them out once this month. I want to do what I was talking to Alex yesterday, and I was saying, I'm getting sidetracked, so I forgot what my main point was. But we were talking about Markiplier and his world's quietest Let's Play. And I was saying, I can talk at this sort of volume, and my microphone picks it up. I have no idea if it picked it up that time, so we'll just have to have a look and see what happens. So, making is a habit at this stage, but what's really interesting is how I got to the point where I knew I wanted to go into prop design, because this was before I started at sixth form college. Sorry, I'm specifically saying sixth form college despite the fact that it's actually a college, because, you know, Americans and fucking colleges is not university, see, you know? But yeah, before I started year 12, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was in the stage where it was like, what do I want to do? I've told the story before, but it's more relevant here than it was in the other video I told it in. But I was going for, what were my subject choices? Sociology, maths, physics, and geology. I was like, I could do geology or engineering, I guess, I don't know. That was sort of roughly the outlook I had on things. And then I found a series called DIY Prop Shop. And I spent 2 days watching everything they had at least twice, basically. And like second or third episode, I was like, this is what I fucking want to do with my life. It was mostly the making an Iron Man arc reactor one, if I remember correctly. Because they made an arc reactor or a prop arc reactor out of some LEDs, a replacement plug hole, and some other garbage stuff. And I just looked at it and it's like, this is what I need to do with my life. And so that's what I'm doing with my life. And it's got to the stage where I've got an unconditional offer at university making things. And I think really everyone's a creator. Everyone makes something in their life, unless you're, a demolition expert, at which point the only thing you make is a mess. I'm not judging you. I enjoy your work. I love watching things get smushed, but not my point. Everyone makes things, but some of us make them in more direct ways. And I'm not trying to make this social commentary or preachy, but really I think any sort of lesson that we can learn from this is just be willing to just last minute change everything you thought you knew you were going to do with your life to pursue that one thing that you want. Like Alex, going for director. That's what he wants. He's going for it. What was it? Shoot for the stars, and if you miss, then you crash into the moon, I think is the way he phrased it last night. The actual quote is, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, at least you're among the stars. But I prefer his version, shoot for the stars, if you miss, at least you're going to crash into the moon. It's fucking great. Yeah, both of us have basically 180'd completely, almost. Well, he hasn't really. I've just gone off in a completely different direction to what I originally thought, because I was in year 9 planning on going to Cambridge to study physics. I wanted to go do astrophysics. That's what I loved. And now I don't hate physics, but I don't fucking enjoy it, that's for sure. It's not my thing. I like making things, and that is what we can take from this. I don't think there's that much left to talk about, really, when it comes to making things. I like to keep these, sort of 20 minutes, but I think this is going to have to be pulled at around the 13, 14 minute mark. It's quite disappointing. Actually, no, I know what I can do. I can talk about Embaselica, how I'm going to make it. Okay, so Embaselica, I saw when I went around looking at unis, I went to University for Creative Arts. They have a campus in Rochester, and someone there had done an entire Yang cosplay. That was their final piece. It was fucking amazing. I had a couple of complaints with it though, because they did Embaselica, and what they did is they did the entire thing out of EVA floor mats. If you know how thick they are, they're about an inch, maybe inch and a half, I think. Don't question. Just accept. But yeah, they're about that sort of thick. And of course, every single layer, there's 3 or 4 layers in Embaselica in places. So they'd done that, and it just looked massively out of proportion. So I looked at it and said, okay, that's good. That's a good starting point. But the main problem I found was that it was too short, and the top, wrist plate thing was way too, thick. So my plan is I'm going to do the base, the bit I've got drawn out already, which is the base structure. That is going to be out of EVA foam. And then the fist plate is going to be made out of, I've got an old, poster tube type thing. It's like a big banner. It's what I'm making, a sort of faux metal arm out of. It's fucking great. It's just a bit of pain to flex and everything, so it's just going to be a bit, trying to flatten out. If not, then I'll probably use PVC. But I'm pretty confident with it. I need to do some shotgun shells and this sort of stuff, so that's going to be a lot of detailed work with EVA foam. Maybe I'll do some resin work with it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very confident. I've got measurements. I'm working to measurements. Everything's going to be done properly with this one, because that's my one hang up. I'm a big picture maker, I'm a combination of big picture and detail orientated. I like the detail in the process, but when it comes to the main picture of the entire piece, I'm a big picture. It just needs to look roughly right. I can fix any little nooks and tweaks and stuff along the way. So this piece is going to be a bit more sort of detail-oriented. I've got measurements. I have to work to those measurements. That's fine. I can do that. It's just a bit of a change of tack for me, because I'm used to sort of it'll be fine. I'll just fix it in a minute. I'll fix it when I get to sanding. I'll fix it when I do this. which is great when you're just by yourself, faffing around in your shed, but I've got to do this for a living, so I'm having to sort of change my approach. And I'm fully down with it, because I want this to be as accurate as possible to the screen used prop. Well, screen used in inverted commas. You can't hear inverted commas, but they're fucking there, okay? And I think this might fit me, because I think, obviously because anime proportions are off, but looking at it, I think this is going to fit me. Yang's only 5'8". I'm about 5'7"-ish. Maybe 5'8". So I reckon this will actually fit me. So I can do a full Yang cosplay, because that's the end goal, hopefully. We'll see. So yeah, hopefully Yang cosplay coming up soon. Be interesting to see that. Well, that is about all we have time for. Thank you for allowing me to intrude your ears and your time, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.